quite a nice turnaround from last year to this year. So you've gone from a loss of 7.64 cents to 13.5 cents almost. And it looks like you have a couple of projects coming on stream, and those have helped those numbers.
Yes, Stephen, definitely helped the numbers, but I think we're only turning around the business now, and you'll only see the turnaround coming through in the next financial year.
So what's actually turning around at this point that is going to be coming through next year?
Yeah, I think if you look at the numbers taken into account for this year under review, we're only starting with construction on the Fleurhof project, for example, and since then construction is going wider to other projects at this stage as well.
So Fleurhof, that's one of the big projects at this stage. A couple of other projects on the boil as well, and you're expecting some more to come on stream this year, is that right?
Yeah, Fleurhof is a project that's currently online. We started handing over the first units towards the end of this financial year, only 203 units. We're talking about a project of 9,600 units, so yeah, it's only the start. But in the meantime, we've started with construction on the hostel project as well as the construction on the Jabulani CBD project. So yeah, construction will pick up during the year.
Tell us a bit more about these projects. What are you actually building here? Are we looking at social housing, low-cost housing? I think there's hostels also at Jabulani, which you mentioned. What is the scope of these projects?
Stephen, the projects are integrated projects. They're based on the B&G principle as promulgated by the previous Minister of Housing, where you've got a different mixture of tenure. And they typically have a 1/3 exposure towards fully subsidised units, another third into social and rental units, and the last third in the affordable market, anyone that can afford to get a bond. So it's a mix of the three.
And to what extent are some of these projects funded by government?
The fully subsidised component is obviously funded by government. We're in a fortunate position where we're playing between government funding and privately funding for the financial institutions. And if you look at like a typical project like Fleurhof with 9,000 units, 1/3 will go to government funding and will rely on that, but it's not reliant on it in any specific year. So because we're looking at 7-year projects, somewhere along the line, we will have a 1/3 exposure towards that.
Because we've had a number of construction companies coming out with numbers recently and not very good. They are complaining about a lack of government spending at this stage. Are you starting to see that turning around? Are you starting to see government digging into its pockets to help fund some of these projects? And I know there is a huge backlog of social housing at this stage.
Yeah, government is, especially if you mention social housing. With regards to social housing, if you're looking at the funds and the subsidies coming through this year, we're currently busy with units for Modelo Moore, which is a social housing company in the Fleurhof project. We're also busy in Bloemfontein with Freshco, the Free State social housing company. So it's definitely an improvement with regard to spending on the social side of it. The spending on the fully subsidised hasn't come as quick as we expected, especially with local elections coming up. You don't see them spending that much money on it. Spending on infrastructure, though, is going well.
And your capacity to actually pick up these projects as they do come to fruition?
Stephen, our business model is say we landowner. That's in order to be flexible. So we prefer acquiring land and then developing in a partnership with the city. So if for whatever reason the budget is not available or funding constraints, we're in a position to sell this to the open market or change our model to go where the funding is available.
And what's funding looking like at the moment, and particularly private sector funding?
Private sector funding is always challenging, especially at the bulk of that we're currently looking to acquire. If you look at a project which is cash intensive, something like Fleurhof, we're talking about a project with a turnover of in excess of 2 billion rand by the time it's completed. The financial institutions are coming back. We're able to acquire development finance, but it will always be a challenge. I think our biggest challenge this year will be to the pace of developments must be dictated by the market out there and not the availability of funding.
And how about Cape Town? What sorts of opportunities is that market open? Because I see you have won a project in Cape Town in the meantime as well.
Yeah, we're just venturing out of Gauteng now. We were very hesitant to go out of Gauteng, and we said, let's wait for operations to stabilize in Gauteng first. But with the integrated model being successful and other provinces looking at us, we thought Cape Town is the natural place to go to the next one. And Cape Town put out a proposal call for projects on the integrated model base, and we were successful in obtaining the project.
You do mention in the commentary today lessons learned at Fleurhof and Jabulani, and of course that's the two projects you're busy with at the moment. What are the lessons you've learned there? Have you taken any hard knocks in setting up those projects?
No, I think it's more with relation to our responsibility towards the community. If you look at Pennyville, a project that was just completed, we're talking 2,800 units with 15,000 odd people residing in it. We say lessons learned there's got to be taken across to Jabalani. With 9,600 units, we're going to have 50,000 people residing there. And I think the lessons learned is to say, don't give prime land away on the fully subsidized market, but rather retain that. I think the mixture was wrong. We prefer having more ratepayers than non-ratepayers and rather uplifting the community. So yeah, I think it's more mixed, and it wasn't a financial lessons learned, it's more making the life of the people residing in these residents a better life.
What sort of momentum can we look for in the earnings this year? And also maybe, why don't you just touch on some of the investor interest in your company?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's difficult to, don't want to go into forecast, but I think construction is definitely picking up during the year, like I say. Last year we spent a lot of time and money in installing infrastructure. This year we're going into construction, so the number will be coming through. If you go back to interest with investors out there, yeah, that's always a difficult one. Liquidity on the share is a problem. There's not enough shares out there, but we're currently trading at 75 cents. It's difficult to rectify that at this stage.